So I decided to change the scope a little bit of my user account creation project. So before I had a few more developer tasks left in my users can create an account story, having to do with the profile photo and the email service that will send a new user email. Okay, I decided to move those. So I'm going to mark my users can create an account as complete. The reason why I moved them is because they just were going to take too much time to fit into this week's worth of work. And I decided that I wanted to increase the scope of my navigation user story. I decided that I did want to finish the logic for showing the login and create account when a user is not logged in, and then show projects and account details when a user is logged in. To me, that just made more sense in terms of a complete feature that is usable. So I added these developer tasks to make the user data available to the header component, and then I added another one to conditionally render links based on whether or not the user is logged in. Okay? If I have extra time on any of my other features, I am going to go ahead and add the photo upload and add the progress via email. The progress via email will likely be added to the user account maintenance feature because you will have to send an email for the resetting of the password. So since I would be setting up the email service then, I figured it was quicker to send an additional email at that point and set up that when I'm already working with the emails than to try to set up the service now just to send one. All right, so in this video then we are going to wrap up feature 1 by completing the navigation with the header. Okay, so right now I'm logged in because I can see the projects page. Okay, so if I'm logged in, then I would like to hide the login and the create an account because those links aren't necessary for me. Same in the reverse is if I'm in my account details and I click log out, right? I shouldn't get to, like, the projects page shouldn't work for me anyway. Yeah, see the projects page, I guess the projects page is not, it's not protected right now. But in the future, when I'm actually loading projects for a user, right, I wouldn't want this to be visible. And I wouldn't want the account details visible either because all it would do is allow them to click on it to just redirect them. Okay? So that is what we are going to work on today. So I'm going to close out of some of these pages. All right. So the way we are going to do this is first we need to identify where header is at. Header is within the app component. Okay? Now we need to figure out in the router structure, where is it? It's at the top level. Okay? The app component is the parent component to the rest of the components, the rest of the pages. Okay? So that means that I can use outlet context to set some data within app and then pass it to not only the header, but to the rest of the components. Then if something changes on one of the rest of my components, I can update the state that's in app and it will be updated within the header too. If that's confusing, that's okay. We're going to go through it and I think it'll make a lot more sense as we keep going. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to first get the data within the app, okay? And so we are going to use another loader function to do so. We're actually going to use a very similar loader function to the one that we have in profile because what we want is we want to know whether or not the user is logged in, okay? And the way that we can tell that is to try to get the user details. So I'm going to add a loader function here, and you can see that this is going to be angry now. You'll see because it's just doing a bunch of redirects now, so I'm actually going to close out of it for a second. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to check if the user is logged in. So we're going to go to the local storage to get a token. That's going to be like our first hint as to whether or not the user is logged in. If there's a token, we need to check to see whether or not the token is expired, okay? So we are going to try to go get profile data about the user that's logged in, okay? If it works, then we're just gonna return that data, yay. If it doesn't work, okay, we don't need to have an error, but we do need to return. We'll still allow them to go to the home page, but we're just going to return an empty object instead because we have to return something whether or not it works, okay? And the same thing's going to happen here. We don't need to do an error response because you can load the main page, the home page, right? You can load the home page without being logged in. So we don't need to redirect them anywhere. We just need to return an empty object if they're not logged in. If they are logged in, then we return response.data. Okay? So now we're going to take that and we are going to use the useLoaderData hook to get the data. So const data is equal to useLoaderData from React Router. Okay? And then let's just go ahead and console log the data that we got. All right. So on this page, we see data object, and it's just going to be an empty object here. Okay. So that means we're not logged in. But now let's go ahead and log in. Okay. So now we are logged in, right? Let's refresh our home page. And you can see that the data that comes back is about our user, Mickey Mouse, okay? At the moment, though, we don't need all of this data about Mickey Mouse. We just want to know whether or not Mickey Mouse is logged in, okay? I'm also gonna take care of this error real quick. So that way, because we're gonna be console logging that. So this error is basically saying that when you use the map method and then you're returning a bunch of objects, you need to have a unique key page. You need to have a unique key on each item. Okay, that's better. So now we see our data about Mickey, okay? So we want to create a state. So we're going to say const logged in, set logged in. And that is going to be equal to use state. And we're going to initially set it equal to false. So let's go ahead and import this from React. Okay. So now we just have false, all right? But we don't actually want it to be initially set to false. We can initially set it to data dot username is not equal, or if we're logged in, I'm trying to create a statement that's going to be true if we're logged in. So data dot username is not equal to undefined. If that statement is going to be true. Okay, so we need to do, all right, we are getting some TypeScript issues. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our type first. So we're gonna say type data is equal to email string name string username string. So this is going to be as data, or I'm going to do undefined. Okay. So now we have logged in is going to be equal to does data have a username? If data has a username, then we're logged in. If data doesn't have a username, then we're not logged in. So let's, instead of this, well, let's keep that. And then let's do console dot log logged in, and then we're gonna console log logged in. Okay, so logged in true, So let's go ahead and log out. Then let's go back to, nope. My fingers are all over the place today. Okay, logged in, false. All right, let's log back in. Logged in, true. Okay, perfect. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to pass this logged in value, okay? We want to pass this to our header, okay? Because our header is going to need to know that. So we're going to say logged in is equal to logged in. All right, it's erroring because we need to edit the component now to include that prop. So we are open here. So we're going to add logged in, and that is going to be of type props. Then we're going to do type props equals logged in, which is a Boolean. Okay, perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to conditionally render here, okay? So we want to say, we want to do it based on the page. So we're going to need to add a property to our page here. So we want to say show when logged in, and that's going to be false, okay? Because we don't want to show the login route when we are logged in. We don't want to see the sign up route when we are logged in. We do want to see the projects route, and we do want to see the account details route, okay? So now we can go ahead here and we can say if logged in. So if we are logged in and page.show logged in, then we return. Okay. So I'm going to try to make sure I'm very clear, even though it's probably unnecessary. Otherwise, we will return null. Okay. So we are logged in true. So we show projects and account details. So let's go ahead and log out. And then I'm going to refresh. Okay, and now I show nothing, okay? But the opposite is true. We want to show these show when logged false when we're not logged in, okay? So we need to figure that out. Okay, so if logged in and page show when logged in, we are going to return with this. I can't just make the opposite because then that will just always show it. So we need to think through this logic. That's just going to show all of them now. Oh, well, no. Okay, so now that's doing if logged in, show it everything. If not logged in, don't show everything. Clearly, my brain is not working this evening. Okay. So if we are logged in and page.show and logged in is true, or not logged in and perfect, maybe. Okay, so we are not logged in, okay, and so then it's going to show us the not show when logged in is false, okay? Refresh just to make sure. Perfect. Okay, so then now we do log in. Okay, and let's refresh the page. So we are logged in, and now it shows us project and account details. Perfect. But if you notice, we had to refresh the page to reload the header because the header itself did not load. Okay? That is the reason why we are using state here. Okay? Because we want to force the state to change when we log out or when we log in or we create an account. So when those three things happen, that's when the login is switched on or off. So we want to make a function that can toggle our logged in and then attach it to those options. And we're going to use the outlet context to pass the values. Okay. So here I'm going to create a state or a function, and I'm going to call it const toggle logged in, and that is going to be equal to logged in, and then I'm going to return, I'm going to set logged in, not logged in. I don't need to pass it in. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am going to, whenever I call the function toggle logged in, it's going to set logged in to the opposite of whatever it is. So it's going to toggle it. So if logged in is true and I call this function, then logged in is not going to be false. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a context. Okay. So I'm going to say const context is equal to, and I'm going to say it's equal to logged in and toggle logged in. Okay, and then I'm going to do export type context, and I'm going to set it equal to logged in, which is going to be a Boolean, and then toggle logged in, which is going to be equal to which is going to be equal to a function that has no parameters and then returns nothing. So now I can say this context is equal to the type context. Okay. And the reason why I exported it here is because I'm going to use it in other locations. Okay. And then I'm going to pass my context using outlet context. Okay. So outlet can take a parameter called context. Okay. And then I can use the outlet context hook in any of the child elements here, okay, to get logged in state and to use the toggle logged in function. So I am going to get rid of this console log data because I don't want too many console logs here. I'm just going to keep the logged in, okay? So then I'm going to go to the three places where the login can change, okay? So that's first going to be on my profile, okay? So I don't want to console log data, but I do want to say const context is equal to use outlet context. And then I'm going to say as context, okay? So let's go ahead and we can do context. Okay. So if I go to account details, you can see the context and I have logged in, true, and then I have my toggle logged in function. It sets the state for us, okay? So then here is where I'm logging someone out, okay? So when I remove the token, I also want to do context dot toggle logged in. Okay, so if I click log out, okay, you can see now that logged in is false, okay? So that is good. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this console log. Okay. Then I'm gonna move on to the next spot. So profiles where I log out. So I'm gonna wanna toggle. The next spot I'm gonna wanna toggle is log in. All right, so I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna say const context is equal to use outlet context. Then I'm gonna say as the type context, okay? Then here on submit, okay, I'm gonna say when I submit is when I'm logging in, okay? So as long as the login is successful, then I can do context dot toggle login. Okay, so let's give that a try. I'm currently not logged in, so I'm going to go ahead and log in and see what happens. Now, login true, and you can see I didn't refresh my page, but I automatically see projects and account details. Because this context.toggle login is essentially what it's doing is it's setting my state within my app, so my app is going to reload because I'm changing the state that's defined in it, okay? Alrighty, so now the third place where you affect logging in and logging out is on the sign up page. So let's go ahead and go back to account details, and I'm gonna log out, which is good because now I see the correct paths in my header. All right, so if I go up here, I can do const context is equal to use outlet context. Then I'm gonna say as context. All right. Then the idea is that we submit, and if we are successful, then we can do context.toggle login. All right. So let's refresh the page. We are not logged in. Okay. Let's go ahead and create an account. And I'm going to create an account. I'm going to say Jane Doe at gmail.com. Jane Doe. Let's put in hopefully the same password. Submit. And yay, our projects and account details automatically changed and our login is now true. So if we go to, we're already on projects, but if we go to account details, perfect. All right, now let's log out, okay? And our automatically changed login and create account. So let's go ahead and type in Jane Doe and let's do our password and press submit. Perfect, and that automatically changed. Okay, so that is how we would use outlet context, okay, to get data into the child elements of our React router, okay? So you can pass a prop into the components that are within the component, right? But the outlet, you are going to use context in order to pass the data, okay? Then you would just put it into the outlet and then you can use the use outlet context hook to get what you put in that context, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so now I can say, yes, I made user data available to the header component, and yes, I conditionally rendered links based on whether or not the user is logged in, okay? So all of my user stories are now done for user account creation, okay? We did have to change the scope a little bit, so I do now have 2 user stories within the if I have time feature, and I will just, as I have extra time while creating other features, add them in, okay? All right, I hope that these videos have been helpful, and please let me know if you have any questions.